So, first thing I want to mention is that long division, when you're doing it with polynomials, is the same as long division with regular numbers. Say we have 5 going into 81. How many times does 5 go into 81? Well, 5 goes into 8 one time. Then we have 1 times 5 is 5. We subtract 8 minus 5 is 3, and we drop the 1 to do it again. 5 doesn't go into 3, but 5 will go into 31 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30, and we have a remainder of 1. So remainder 1. So our answer here would be 16, remainder 1, but when you have a remainder, really it's just plus the remainder divided by what you're dividing by, 1/5. So it's 16 and 1/5, or 16 plus 1/5. So our first problem, we have x minus 3 going into 3x cubed minus 4x squared plus 6x minus 2. So first we have to ask, how many times does x go into 3x cubed? Well, we can do that on the side. 3x cubed divided by x. 3 stays, and then 1x will cancel. X cubed divided by x leaves us with x squared. So that is the first part. How many times does x go into 3x cubed? 3x squared times. And then you multiply this times x minus 3, and then continue the process. Alright, so we have 3x squared times x is 3x cubed. 3x squared times negative 3 is negative 9x squared. And we're minusing it, just like before with regular division. These should always cancel out. If they don't, you did something wrong. So we cancel them, and then we have negative 4x squared minus negative 9x squared. Minus negative means plus. So here we get 5x squared, because it's negative 4x squared plus 9x squared. And then the rest drop, just like before. Plus 6x minus 2. How many times does x go into 5x squared? Well, since we're just taking out 1x, it's going to stay plus 5, and all we're going to have left is 1x, because 5x squared divided by x leaves us with just 5x. 1x cancels out. Alright, 5x times x is 5x squared. 5x times negative 3 is negative 15x, and we're subtracting that. So 5x squared minus 5x squared cancels, and we have 6x minus negative means plus. 6x plus 15x is 21x. And the negative 2 drops. How many times does x go into 21x? Well, the x would cancel, and we'd just be left with plus 21. And then do the same thing. 21 times x is 21x, minus 21 times negative 3 is negative 63. And we subtract. Those cancel, and we get negative 2 minus the negative means plus 63. Negative 2 plus 63 is 61. So 61 is our remainder. So R, 61. But the proper way of writing that, we'll write the answer right here. We have 3x squared plus 5x plus 21 plus 61 over what you're dividing by, x minus 3. Alright? And our next problem, we're seeing how many times x squared plus 1 goes into x to the 4th minus 1. But whenever you're missing terms, we don't have a cube term, we don't have a square term, we don't have an x. We have to add them in somehow. So we're going to put plus 0x cubed plus 0x squared plus 0x minus 1. So that's our problem. So x squared goes into x to the 4th how many times? X to the 4th divided by x squared. 2 x's cancel, and we're left with x squared. And then same process as before. Multiply this with these two. So we have x squared times x squared. Add the exponents, x to the fourth. X squared times 1 is plus x squared. And we're subtracting. These have to cancel. Alright, so the x to the fourths cancel. And we're left with negative x squared. Because there is no x squared up here. So whatever you have here, negative x squared, is just going to drop down. Drop the rest of the terms. So plus 0x minus 1. How many times is x squared going to negative x squared? Okay, well let's see. Negative x squared divided by x squared. X squared divided by itself is 1, so really we just have negative 1. So x squared minus 1. And we multiply the negative 1 with x squared plus 1. So we get negative 1 times x squared, negative x squared. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. And we're subtracting. So, and you can line these up, like here. We could write minus 1 over here. So, negative x squared means positive x squared. So negative x squared plus x squared is 0. Those cancel. And we have negative 1 minus the negative means plus 1. Negative 1 plus 1 is also 0. So we have a remainder of 0 here. So there's no remainder. So our answer is just what we have up here. X squared minus 1 is what you get when you divide x to the fourth minus 1 divided by x squared plus 1. Okay, next I'll be talking about synthetic division. Now the only drawback to synthetic division is that it only works when it's x plus or minus some number. So this can't be x squared or x cubed, it has to be x. Alright, so what you do when you're doing synthetic division is you find the 0 of this thing. So what makes this whole thing 0 if you plug it into x? Usually just the opposite of what you see here. So we have to plug in 1 to get 0 there. So that's what we're going to put in our top left-hand corner in a little box. And then we list out the coefficients of all the terms in this. So we're trying to figure out how many times does x minus 1 go into 4x cubed minus 2x plus 1? Well, so we list out the coefficients. It's going to be 4. There's no x squared term, so we have to include that somehow. So we put a 0, and then negative 2, and 1. And then this is how it works. You drop the first one, so 4 drops down, and then you multiply. 1 times 4 is 4, and then you add. So we have 0 plus 4 is 4. And we multiply. 1 times 4 is 4, and then we add. 4 minus 2 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. And then we add 3. And whatever this last one is always our remainder. So, now, notice this is x cubed. And since we took away 1x, we're going to start out with x squared here. So it's going to be 4x squared. This is positive 4, so plus 4x, positive 2, plus 2. And you're just dropping down 1x at a time. So it's going to be x squared, then x, then the constant. Then a remainder plus, the remainder is 3 over whatever it is that you're dividing by. We're dividing by x minus 1. So that would be our answer here. For the second one, same thing. First, find the 0 of what you're dividing by. What makes this 0? So negative 3. Put that little top left-hand corner, and then we list the coefficients of this thing. So we have 1. That's our x to the fourth. There's no x cubed term. So this was our x to the fourth term. Our x cubed term is 0 because there is no x cubed. Then we have ... negative 4, 0, and negative 45. And then we do the same process as that we just did before. We drop the first, so 1 drops down. Negative 3 times 1 is negative 3. And then we add 0 plus negative 3 is negative 3. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. And we add, that becomes 5. Negative 3 times 5 is negative 15. And then we add, negative 15 plus 0 is negative 15. Negative 3 times negative 15 is 45. And we add, and this last number is 0, so we have no remainder. So, since we started with x to the 4th, we know we're going to start with x cubed here. Just drop it down by 1 power. Minus 3x squared plus 5x minus 15. And there is no remainder, so that'll be it.